All right, everyone, welcome back to part two of our list lesson. We're going to talk about adding values to a list and extending a list, okay? So before we get there, every data type we've learned so far, we've learned that they are immutable, as in we can't modify them unless we recreate them. However, lists are mutable, as in we can modify the values inside without necessarily recreating the entirety of the list. We can take out part by part and we can modify part by part. Therefore, we're allowed to add and extend the list, whereas other data types we couldn't really uh, add on to it or modify the inside. Okay, so lists are our very first mutable data types. Right. So first method I'm going to teach you is the append method. Okay, so this method is where we're going to take one item, not an entire list. We're going to get one item, and it's going to add it to the end of our list. Okay, so if I have a list here, has two strings of apple and orange, and I'm going to run these two lines of code here, where I'm going to append kiwi and honeydew. And if I were to print a list, we're going to get apple, orange, kiwi, and honeydew. Because kiwi was added in first, it goes to the end, and honeydew goes to the end as well. So append will always insert items at the end of the list. Okay? If you notice here, we're not saying a list plus equals a value, or we're not saying a list is equal to all this with the kiwi and all that with a honeydew, because we're not recreating that variable, we're not re-updating that variable, right? We are literally mutating this original list to add on values to the end. Therefore, because lists are mutable, so we're taking advantage of that, and that's what the append method allows us to do. Another method that we can learn is the extend method. It allows us to combine two lists together. Okay, so in this argument here, it will be another list. So I have a list of 2, 3, 5 and a b list of 7, 11, 13. I can say a list extend b list. Okay, so I'm going to extend this a list with this argument b list. And I'm also going to extend it. If I want to add a single value and use the extend method, I'm going to be have a single value and use square brackets, because the argument of extend has to be a list. So if I print a list, it's 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, because I've extended it with the b list, and I've added 17 at the end as well by extending it. And print b list, that gives me 7, 11, and 13, because we haven't modified b list. Okay. A next method that we can use is also the insert. So it takes in two arguments. First, the location, like the index location of where you want to add an item, okay? And the item value. It needs to have a value that you want it to add, okay? If the location is beyond the size, it will always add it to the end, right? Locations can be negative, much like where we can do indexing with negative values. And if the location already has a value, so let's say you're inserting value at location 1, but there's already a value, it will shift everything at that location and onwards to the right and actually insert your value at that correct location. Okay? So if we were to look at some examples, I have a list of 2, 3, 5, and 7. I'm going to insert 11 at location 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Index 5 is not there yet. So 11 goes automatically at the end, because 5 was greater than the number of slots we have. Right, then I can say it had a list -1 on the very last value at 13. Okay, so it's going to shift 11, because 11's at -1, so it's going to shift it to the right and put 13 in that location. Or if I were to insert 4 at location 2, so 0, 1, 2, that's where 5 is located. So 5, 7, 13, 11 onwards, those are pushed to the right, and 4 is inserted into our list. Okay. Let's look at some basic list operators. Much like every single data type we learned so far, list also has their own operators. This will always generate new lists for you if we were to use some operators. So we can add two lists together. We can extend lists together by using an operator. The difference is that it will generate a new list. So if I have A and B, and if I say I want to see the result of A plus B, it's going to extend the left one with the right one. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I can do that, I can also do A plus equal B, saying that, hey, I want to update A by extending it with B. So now A would be a list of 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. Okay. Append, extend, insert, they all mutate a list, whereas list addition creates a new list Okay. So please be careful with that, unless you use the plus equal operator where you're going to reassign it to A anyways. Multiplier, very similar to string repetition, right? We're going to repeat a list. So if I do A, repeat it by 3, we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I do A plus equal 3, if I print that, A has now become 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have recreated what A should be when multiplied by 3 here. Okay, so this is recreation. We haven't modified or mutated A, but we have recreated A to become the result of itself repeated 3 times. Okay, so those are all our operators and methods that deal with insert, append, and repetition, where we get to add a value. So now we know how to create a list. We have learned how to traverse them and index them. By this point now, you should be able to add in values and maybe make a list much larger by repeating it. So it will help you solve more diverse problems. Thank you for watching. Stay classy.